Hello, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below. I used to say I'm most active over on Instagram, where you'll find me as Rainbow Ange and Yarn and Yarns, but I don't really say that anymore, don't know why, but I am, and you can. Welcome to a Yarn and Yarns extra video today. It's Sunday and it goes without saying, we have no plans. We're going to try and stay indoors. Well, when I say indoors, the sun is shining again today. It's been a bit grey and rainy for the last couple of days in South Wales, so my plans involve knitting, sitting in the garden, enjoying the sun. So yeah, I thought we'd just do a daily vlog today, and I'll record a few snippets and see what we get at the end. I'm hoping that we might do some baking later, and I might even get James on the camera. He's still in bed at the moment. We didn't sleep very well last night, I don't know why, but both of us were prowling at ridiculous o'clock, but that's okay. It's not like we're busy. If I need a nap later, that is a-okay. So yeah, we'll just see what the day brings. I've carved myself out a little knitting nook. I usually just sit on the bench, but my back's a bit sore today, so I brought a camp chair out because it's a bit less hard on the posterior. And I'm working for the first time in a couple of days on my Simple Something sweater. I had to put it away for a while because I was just obsessed and I wasn't knitting on anything else, and I wanted to get some other things done. And I've had to sort through my bag of leftovers, and I've got my next few colours lined up, and it looks like I have Newtie for company. Hey Newt. Newt. Why are you ignoring me? Cats. Ever the lady. What are you doing, Newt? Nice. Just showing off because you can stick your leg in the air, aren't you? Can you spot Adventure Cat up there, climbing around on the neighbour's roof? I wonder what Andrew will think if he looks up in his kitchen window and sees a cat staring down at him. It's not as adventurous as you might think. Our decking's just there, and you can see there's a wall there which attaches to the roof. There she is, staring in his window. It's mid-afternoon. I've managed to tear myself away from my sunshine and my knitting, and I'm going to do a bit of baking. James has finally gotten out of bed. He's agreed to come and help me do some baking. What are we going to bake?
Fat rascals.
And what is a fat rascal?
It's a kind of a mixture between a scone and a rock cake.
And where are we getting this recipe from?
From a food and travel blog called Lavender and Love. Something like that.
Lavender and Lovage.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'll link it down below so you can follow it yourself. I've basically got all the ingredients already ready, so you don't have to watch me do the boring prep bit. So I'll show you what we're adding. So I've got a... what is that?
Zest.
So weird recording with James stood behind me. Zest of an orange and a lemon. I've got 125 grams of unsalted butter, which has come straight out of the fridge and is cubed. There's 100 grams
Caster sugar.
of caster sugar and 150 grams of dried fruit. It's meant to be mixed dried fruit, but we've only got sultanas, so that will do the job. And then in the bowl, there's 150 grams each of plain flour and self-raising flour. The recipe calls for normal flour, but as many of you know, I'm eating gluten-free, so I've just grabbed a supermarket owned plain flour and a supermarket owned self-raising flour, and we've done this before and it works absolutely fine. I accidentally put the cinnamon and nutmeg, which is one
teaspoon of cinnamon and half a teaspoon of nutmeg.
That shouldn't have gone in the flour just yet, but we're just going to go with it. And there's also, how much baking powder?
Teaspoon.
A teaspoon of baking powder. So now comes the messy bit.
Yep.
And who's responsible for the messy bit?
Well, I guess it's me, as I'm here.
So the butter goes into what should the baking powder be in there as well? So it should just be the mix of flour and baking powder. The cinnamon and nutmeg goes in later, but like I say, we're just going to go with it. And then once all the butter is in, you basically do the messy job. And James has washed his hands and he hasn't touched his face. Nod.
Yes, I've washed my hands and I haven't touched my face.
And you basically squidge those together until you get breadcrumb kind of consistency, isn't it?
Yeah.
While James is doing that, there is one ingredient that I did forget to mention, and that is glacé cherries, which you need to put on top of the finished cake before it goes in the oven. Do you call it a cake?
Dunno. Fat rascal.
Okay. So yeah, those go on top of the fat rascals at the end. We also need eggs, which we haven't yet come to, but all will be revealed. You're going to reveal all, James.
I don't think that's appropriate for Sunday afternoon baking, but...
Half an hour later. Still waiting. In the meantime, I have put the oven on to warm up. So we go for 200 degrees. If you've got a fan oven, put it at 180. You might notice from our symbol we do have a fan oven, but it's old and rubbish, so we ignore that. On a little side note, if you enjoy a bit of a cooking vlog, I highly recommend hopping over to the Dave's Gym channel. You might already know Zoe, who is Pins and Needles, if you are a watcher of knitting podcasts, and you probably know that her and her husband run a gym in Cardiff. And while we're in this shutdown period, they have started a YouTube channel where you can do lots of workouts, if you're that way inclined. And also, Dave has been putting up some brilliant quarantine cuisine recipes, so I can highly recommend you hopping over to that channel to explore lots of different cookery things. Are we there?
Nearly.
Do we have breadcrumbs?
Almost. There's just a couple of lumps of butter left.
Getting arty, look, I'm coming in for a shot from a different angle. You impressed with my camera skills?
Yeah. I think we're pretty much there.
That looks pretty good. Well done, and your hands aren't even that messy yet.
Not yet.
What comes next then?
So now we need to add in the wet ingredients, so the sugar, the fruit. This is where you'd normally add the cinnamon and nutmeg, but
yes, I messed up.
we added that a little bit prematurely.
I like that. You accept responsibility along with me.
Yes, well, I wasn't supervising, so I have to take some of the blame. So, yeah. Just a couple of little bits of butter that just need mixing out, and then we can add in the wet ingredients. So what we're going to need to do is put in the sugar and the fruit, and then lightly beat up an egg. and then add a splash of milk. The recipe that we're following says 3 tablespoons, I think, but I tend to just do it by hand until I feel like the mixture's wet enough.
Is that because you're all chefy?
I have baked before, yes.
When you used to work at the pizza place, did you have to make your own bases?
Yes.
Back in your youth?
Back in my youth.
How long ago was that? Do you want to confess on YouTube?
Well, it would have been 1991. Back in my pizza chefing days, so quite a few years ago. Almost 30 years ago.
How can that be? You're only 21.
Yeah, I know.
So I just grabbed some milk out of the fridge and quickly whipped up an egg. He's still faffing, perfectionist. Sugar in, fruit in, give that a bit of a mix round. Would you say that's better to do that before you start putting in the really soggy stuff?
Yeah, just means everything's slightly more evenly distributed before you start getting all of the wet sticky stuff in there.
When does the zest go in?
Yeah, we can put the zest in now as well.
Lovingly grated by me off camera earlier. That's why these are going to taste so good, because I did a great job with the grating. Not even a comment, he's not even humouring me anymore. Grating. Egg. This is where it gets really messy. And the chefy just enough milk step. And you've got to get your hands back in there with all the goo. Anything to say at this point?
Yeah, well, you just need to mix it up until everything starts to bind together. So you can see here, we're starting to get something that looks like a lump with a few dry bits at the bottom.
Oh, you're making it sound delicious.
It's all about the finished article.
A lump with some dry bits at the bottom. I wonder why they didn't call the finished article that.
So that's pulling together nicely. Still got quite a bit stuck to my fingers though.
Does that mean you need a little bit more flour?
Yeah.
Now this was a secret chefy tip that I learned last time we did these, wasn't it? Because it was my hands that were getting sticky last time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sadly, I've got to hold the camera this time. Do you want me to sprinkle it on your hands? Or are you just going to go in there with your sticky hands? Yeah. So that's all the ingredients now, isn't it?
Yep. So the last little bit, once we bind all this together, is to take an egg yolk and mix it with a tiny amount of water just to make a glaze, and then we measure it out on a baking tray and put on the glaze and the glacé cherries.
Right, is the mixture ready then?
Just about. Just going to get all as much as I can off my fingers so we don't waste any.
Right, so what we tend to do is once it's all mixed together is weigh out the whole mixture and then divide that up for as many fat rascals as we go for. The recipe I think says 6 to 8, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
We usually do 6, but they are quite big. So to pretend that we're not piggies on YouTube, we're going to try and make 8 this time, aren't we?
We are.
We can always have 2 if it's not enough. So 808. So that makes it really easy.
Yep, so 101 grams per rascal.
That's never happened before.
No.
The magic of YouTube. Oh, now you're going to spoil it. Don't put extra on there.
Waste not, one not.
Yeah, but then it's going to be...
816, that's still fine. 102.
So then basically you're just grabbing lumps from there. Big, and this is where he gets really precise. This is, if I'm doing it, he gets cross because I'm just like, oh, that's about right. When we make 6, it tends to be around about 120 grams, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or 125, and then you get cross because some of mine are 128 and some of them are 123. And then you go picking and changing things.
Just want to make sure everybody gets a fair portion. It's not fair if one of them's bigger than the others.
Depends who gets the big one. If it's me, then it's totally fair. See, look. That had a bit on the baking tray if that was me by now. I'll spare you the half an hour that this is going to take. Or James is super precise. What are you doing now, James?
Just putting some flour on the bottom of the baking tray, this will stop them from sticking. Right, so we've got 8 rascals. Now we just need to glaze them and then put on the cherries. But before that, wash hands.
So I record this whole shot so YouTube can sing along happy birthday twice and make sure you're doing it properly. Is it anyone's birthday out there? Can we sing happy birthday to you? What's going on?
So this is egg yolk with a little bit of water in it, and all I'm going to do is put a little glaze on here. This will just make sure they get nice and golden brown in the oven.
Your Picasso tendencies coming out. You feel like a true artist.
Yeah.
Look at the mess you've made. Silence. Whose job's it going to be to clear that up?
Mine as usual. Want to space them out as well a little bit. They will grow as they bake, so you want to try and avoid them merging together if you can.
Be interesting to see whether they stay apart having 8 on there.
Yeah.
Because obviously when there's 6, although they're a bit bigger, there is a little bit more space between them, isn't there?
Yeah.
Now we usually put 4 bits of cherry on top, don't we?
We do.
But I wasn't sure whether, because we're making smaller, 4 would fit on. So I only chopped up 8. What do you reckon?
Maybe we could put 3 on.
Perhaps I shouldn't have eaten that cherry. We do have a problem with the cherries disappearing in this house, don't we?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I reckon we could squeeze another half on each of those.
If you make it thin strips, we could make smiley faces. This one looks a bit like an alien. Or one of those emojis with the heart eyes. All done.
Yep, they're ready to go in the oven. So we're at 200 degrees, and the recipe says between 15 and 20 minutes. Because our oven isn't very good, 20 minutes is probably right. So what I tend to do is put them in for 10, then turn them around, do them for another 10, check them. Sometimes they need another few more minutes. Timer for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and check those.
Time for a cuppa.
Time for a cup of tea. Okay, so we're halfway through. Let's have a quick look. They're looking good. Slightly expanding into each other, but I think we can live with that.
So you probably don't need to do that step.
if you've got a good oven.
Decent oven. But ours is, well, we don't know how old it is, do we?
No, it's not very good. Like I say, it's a fan oven, but we always have to cook it at non-fan oven temperatures, and yeah, the heat doesn't distribute evenly. So if you've got a conventional oven, turn it round. If you've got a fan oven, you should be fine. But always best to check. Okay, that's 20 minutes. They're looking pretty good. Still a tiny bit soft, so I'm going to give them an extra minute just to make sure they're properly cooked.
1 minute?
Maybe 2.
How long until I get to eat them is the more important question.
Well, they have to cool once they come out of the oven, so
Ooh.
probably about 10 minutes.
Can I just blow on it?
No.
I thought you said 2 minutes.
That was 2 minutes.
Was it?
Yep. There you go, they're looking good.
Ooh, they do look good. Sure you can't eat mine? No, hang on. That doesn't matter.
I can eat yours if you want.
Are you sure I can't eat mine?
Positive. I have to wait until they've cooled down, otherwise they'll break up.
We did find last time, because we used the gluten-free flour, the first lot we had were quite crumbly, weren't they?
Yeah.
But then when we had them again the next day, they'd hardened up a little bit more, hadn't they? So
Yeah. So for preference, if you don't have to use gluten-free flour, don't. But obviously, if you have a bit of a gluten intolerance like Ange does, then you probably want to use the gluten-free flour.
it doesn't make that much, because we used to make these before I discovered my gluten intolerance, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we used to use the same recipe, and they're not massively different. The texture's just slightly different. They look so good. Yum. Yeah. After what seems like 11 million hours of cooling, we're finally able...
15 minutes.
11 million hours. We're finally able to sample the goods. Where's mine gone? Ready? What's the verdict?
Pretty good.
So there we go. Fat Rascal Baking a la Ange and James. Courtesy of recipe from Lavender and Lovage.
Yeah.
Linked below if you fancy making your own. Gets a thumbs up from us.